So the story is related by the legendary Chassid Rabbi Kazlimer. So he was telling the story that, by the way, not it was before 1920s. The revolution was in 1917, so we're talking 1915, 1914, 1916 in Russia.
And the Bolsheviks took over in
1917 was the revolution, yeah. This was the year.
That era.
Huh?
That era.
Yeah, this is the years before that. This is that era. It could be 1917 itself, 1916. So the story is that it was a chaotic and volatile time in Russia. Bands of political groups and Cossacks roamed freely. It was dangerous to be on the street. People were killed for a pair of shoes. And being on a train, notorious. Bands of Cossacks would board a train, and then you took your life in your hands, and particularly a visible Jew. Thrown out of trains alive. So the story was that the Rebbe Rashab had once asked Reb Chonya Morozov. No, this is Chassidic. Who is this? I'm sorry, Chassidic. Hashem Yimkim Domei. He was killed by the Nazis. So, subsequently, so he told me he was put on a mission. He had to bring money from wherever it was to Rostov, where the Rebbe Rashab was staying. This was money, funding the yeshiva and the underground. It wasn't underground yet then, but the yeshiva. Before actually the communists took over, during this very volatile and chaotic, what's the word for it? Time. So coming back, so he had the money, and he's now traveling by train to Rostov, and some Cossacks board, and they see him, and I don't go into detail, but I think he was thrown up, but he survived. But they took the penny. It was a point where they stole the money. So when he came to Rostov, so the Rebbe said to him, since you were an oinus, since you this happened against you, you were forced, so I can't ask you to pay the money in one time. And therefore you should pay slowly. And Ramotel tells the story. He says, indeed, Rabbi Chassidic, until he was killed, he was paying back this money that was stolen from him. End of story. So Rabbi Kazlimer tells the story. He says this is difficult to understand. But in halacha, first of all, a shomer, a guardian, is not responsible if things happen against an oinus. No, an oinus, one word for it. An oinus is forced unwittingly. And especially a shomer chinam, he's not being paid for this. That's even a shomer that's paid. If someone comes armed robbers and takes the goods, and is not liable. That's the halacha. And a shomer chinam, one is not paid, which is the case in point. He's certainly free from liability. And not just a shomer chinam, he's risking his life for this. And the Rebbe called the kind of, okay, you're an oinus, I can't ask you in one shot, but you'll pay over time. So Reb Motel said, he was saying this. There's a big difference between a guardian, a custodian, and a Chassidic. A custodian is holding a possession that belongs to somebody else. So you can't come to him with complaints. But what complaints? But he said, would you imagine that a person, a father, a balabos, he's going to come home, he needs money, bread on the table, and he's going to say that, sorry, I apologize, all the money was, I've stolen, it was taken, something happened. Is he even going to say that? What's the point? We need to eat. It's your children, it's your house, and it's completely moot. That it wasn't my fault. It doesn't change. This is your children. Somebody else, I'm sorry, go home and you've discharged your obligation. But if it's not you, somebody else's children, but your children, you don't have this attitude of, not you and not your family, of, oh, it's okay, you're not liable, I'm not going to take you to court, I'm not going to sue you. He's got to feed his children. And that was Reb Chassidic. That was a relationship he had with the Rebbe, with the Chassidim. He was a secretary. Him, from his perspective, he wasn't a sent on the shlichus to do something. This is his children. So when the Rebbe said to him, okay, so you can't pay in one shot, you pay slowly. There was no protest, and this was because that's what he was. And of course, the message for us is also that we can choose to be, do our job as an outsider, do our best. If it doesn't work, or we're prevented through circumstances beyond our control, what can you do? And walk away and have a good night's sleep, or it's got to get done. Your job's got to get done. So all the excuses in the world, I'm not liable, I'm not no Gehenna, I'm not going to be punished. So what? Which reminds me of a story, similar story with the Rebbe Rashab himself and Rabbi Chaim Brisker. This is the founder of the Soloveitchik dynasty. This was in Russia, and the Russian government had called this meeting. This is before communism, and there was terrible times. They tried to control Jewish education and the rabbinate. This was all instigated largely by the Reform movement. They wanted to modernize and secularize and emancipate Jews from their superstitious religion, etc. Tragically, it was the Jewish agenda that pushed it. Anyway, this was so it was meetings and meetings, and at one point they were in the same hotel room, and the Rebbe Rashab was crying bitterly. He fainted, and he was crying bitterly. At that point in the discussions, it looked like they weren't getting anywhere. The government was going to control who's going to be the teacher, the curriculum, which rabbis. And Chaim Brisker said, the Rebbe, why are you crying? We did all that we could. Did everything we could. To which the Rebbe tearfully responded, but we didn't achieve what we have to achieve. So what does it help? So if it's a responsibility, you do what you do. It's in God's hand. What can I do? But it's your children. What's the difference? So that's the story over here. That's how we should approach, try to anyway, our responsibilities. The job's got to get done, and that's it. I guess with such an attitude, Hashem helps that at the end it will be, no matter what, in the end.